Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you guys are off to a good finish to the week here and getting ready for the weekend. I wanted to share something with you guys. One of my favorite writers has a concept that I think we're probably all struggling with a little bit. So Cal Newport, who is famous for a book that he wrote called Deep Work, really getting kind of focused on your core things and not getting sidetracked with distractions, et cetera, has a concept called slow productivity. And it's something I guess I hadn't heard this term, but something I've been a little bit focused on. I mean, show of hands if we feel like we're just spinning the hamster wheel and we're tired and we're burnt out. Get a one in the chat or put the hand up. Who kind of feels that way? Who feels like you're just every day tired? I was at the Sebastian stand-up thing over the past weekend, and he came out with a line that said he was 51 years old, and he said, "I wake up tired. I got 8 hours, full night's sleep. I wake up and I'm tired." Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and I've definitely had those days, had those weeks, had those months. Um, and I feel like I'm making some progress. I feel like I wake up energized, not every single day, but most days. Um, so what Cal did was pretty interesting. He took a look at some of the history, ancestral history, um, worked with an anthropologist that kind of studies how did we evolve? What did we do, right, as hunter gatherers? What did a day look like? Um, and it was obviously a lot less than what we are trying to accomplish in any given day. A lot less, right? So you might be out all day on a hunt, but you might be focused for a very short period of time. And the rest of it is downtime, or it's raining today, and it's just a complete day off. And we just don't have those days. We're just go, go, go. At least if you're like me, which I'm assuming most of you are, it's go, 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 go. When am I ever going to get time? Get my checklist out. How many things can I get done? Um, so let me just share this with you from Cal, this idea of slow productivity. I don't know if he's got a book coming out on it or what. I was just listening to this podcast on the way in, and I thought the concept was pretty interesting, and it's something that he's still evolving and kind of working on. But let's just take a listen. Let me share this with you all. Where is my share? There we go. Let's take a listen.
Email subscribers for my news list, because that's not going to help me get better at what I'm trying to do. It is much, much easier to be minimalist in your scheduling when you're focused relentlessly on a small number of things, getting better and better at it. It also earns you the right to be more autonomous. The better you get at what you do best, the more leeway you have to say, I'm not coming onto that committee. I am not going to do this client contract. It's barely overlaps what I like to do. It's going to be incredibly time consuming. I'm not going to have to do 25 social media posts a day in some quixotic quest to build up an influencer audience. It gives you the autonomy you need to take control over what you spend your time on and what you don't. So that is my answer. That is my answer to the anti-productivity movement. Yes, we are overloaded. It's a problem. Why? Because of chronic overload. Causes all these issues that alienates us from our human wiring. What's the solution? Not to discard productivity and say do less and let's celebrate that, but to get more specific and say let's redefine productivity. We'll call it slow productivity, and we're going to build this very intentionally from the ground up to get our work lives back aligned with our ancient wiring. Do fewer things. Do this work at a natural pace, obsess over quality. That, I believe, is the proper response to our current, rightly pointed out as problematic state of overload. That is how we take back control of activity in our life and keep it fulfilling, keep it meaningful, keep options open, but also get away from all of the issues we're currently facing in our world of chronic overload. All right, so that's what I have on slow productivity. This is a new thought, guys, so I'm sure it's going to evolve.
So nothing like groundbreaking here, but just really, I that was my word for the year last year, saying more no's, right? But he makes it very clear. You can't just say no to everything. And you've got to really sharpen the saw to be able to gain that autonomy. So if you're newer, for instance, in this real estate business, maybe you do have to grind it out and do a lot of things and do all the social and take the leads and work everything and 7 days a week and do the open houses, right? When you've got maybe a little bit more energy. But hopefully we're building up a skill set so that as you get 5, 10 years into this business, you can start to say, you know what? I don't have to do that. I got 100 past clients. I work my sphere. I do my mailers. I've got my things that I do really, really well that I can say no to a lot of other things. He had a caller call in on the podcast and talking about his wife, who is a pediatric dentist. And he's like, you know what? My wife, without even realizing this concept, pulled this off. She got really, really good in her dental practice. She didn't own the practice. She worked there. She was a top person as far as the reviews that would come back, as far as how the patients scored her or whatever in the surveys that they did. And she got to a point where she had middle-aged kids in their, I don't know, 5 to 7 years old, I think it was. And she really, really wanted to be able to bring those kids to school, right? And be able to pick them up. And so she had earned the right to go to the boss and say, hey, I'm only going to come in from these hours. I'll start surgery at 8. I got to be done by 2. You've got me, right? Now, you can't come in as a brand new dentist and ask for that, but earn the right, get the skills, sharpen the saw, then you can build the life. So interesting. I don't know. Anybody want to chime in? What are we hearing? What's resonating? Hopefully this is hitting you somewhere where it makes some sense. What do we got? Anybody have any thoughts? Not everybody at once. What do you got, Linda or Jeff?
Good morning. I really, really love this because I find the world to be very overwhelming. The level of sensory overload is sometimes it almost paralyzes me. And so to be able to kind of put your head down and block off all of that extra stuff and focus on what you are good at and really, really try to become excellent at that and focus on that instead of trying to do everything everywhere all at once. Um, I just think again that is how we are wired, and it makes so much sense. And so I just really love that concept very, very much. And I love that somebody's giving us permission to do that and saying it's a good thing. Because that's not what we've been hearing. Every time I turn around, it's you've got to be doing this and this and this social media and these, get out there and do and I'm to the point where I'm almost frozen because it's so overwhelming. So this to me it feels very civilized and reasonable. And it helps you to sort of focus back on who you are as an individual and the gifts and talents that you have, and try to use those to the best of your abilities and just try to walk in excellence in that regard and leave the other stuff to the other people who are good at those other things. So I like it a lot.
Cool. Cool. I want to really, really encourage you guys, if you haven't followed anything that Cal's doing, and if this is hitting you right between the eyes, if just the way he delivers the message is just like calm, and we don't have to be going so fast, and just slow it down a little bit, right? And this is a guy that's accomplished a lot. I think he's got, 4 or 5 best-selling books, but he's just calm. Deep Work is kind of his classic, but he's got a bunch of other. I believe to this day, he does not have a social media account, not one. Right? So check out Cal Newport. Check out his podcast, his YouTube. Hopefully, you'll get some more nuggets there. He's got a lot of great shares. Chris.
Well, I was just going to say, God, that sounded like a lot of doom and gloom this morning, Steve. I'm like, you're like, are you burnt out? I'm like, it's March, LFG. This is not doom and I'm not burnt out. Catch me in December, man. I will be burnt. But there's so much in what you did say. Like, I have structured my life as a single mom in 18 years in the business that I did and still do put on the bus, off the bus. I do hit every play. I do get everything done. And I think that's where your mindset, what you focus on, expands, right? If I wake up and I'm like, I'm tired, this is bothering me, that's what's going to happen. Or if I wake up and say, this is the day I'm given, let's go, like it's going to be different. And another big thing is everybody has different goals. And I think it's very important. If someone's just doing this part time and their goal is to hit 10 a year, then go and you got this. But if somebody's goal is to do a billion, like it's not comparing ourselves to the outside world and trying to keep up with them. That I want to try to do what everybody else is doing, then I burn out. If I just stay in my lane, do my thing. I mean, calm is the last thing that you would use for an adjective to describe me. But if you catch me at 9 a.m. or 8, actually right after this call, I will be 45 minutes of at one point of the morning in just meditation. And it is a full 45 minutes now and before bed. And, there's just different parts of different day that you do different thing. I think this has taken me a long time to get here, but I'm glad I'm here.
I love the way you started, which is that there are seasons, right? And if you're in New England, it's absolutely go time, right? No different than the ancestors, right? And when it's time, it's go time. And we're going to have to go out and we're going to have to get the hunt and we're going to, right? And then maybe when, I don't know, are you stacking some stuff away? And when the colder seasons are coming, you're a little less, right? And we're not so go, 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 right? So there are definitely seasons to the real estate business. And if you miss the season, you could be in some trouble. So I think Chris hit it on the head here. It is spring in New England and you've got to be ready to go. And if you're burnt, you're going to have to say, all right, I'm going to have to run, at both ends right now because this is the time to go and get yours. Because if you say, oh my God, I'm going to take my summer and I'm going to go on vacations and you expect to turn it on in October or November, you're going to be in trouble. And Florida, right? We got our Florida folk on. Seasons are a little bit different down there, right? So know your seasons in your market and be ready to go. Anybody else? Dan.
Hey, Steve, how's it going? Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I think it just kind of falls back into the same old thing as you don't have to be able to do everything. There is a ton of different aspects to everybody's profession, but especially within real estate, there's a lot of different types of transactions and different ways and different specialties that you can have. Same thing in lending, but whatever you decide to do and whatever you make your goal, and that's what you want to build your business on, is to make sure you're doing that well and focus on 100% gung-ho. Make sure you know everything about what you're doing and try to really build on that. And if you need to focus on staying in that lane. If you work with more on listings, more with buyers, or if you've done a ton of short sale and foreclosure work, but there's a lot of different ways. And if new construction, I know some people on here have we've referenced before saying have done a lot of new construction. So if you ever have any questions, go to this person. So it's that type of thing. I think find your niche. And then definitely having that work family balance is definitely all important. I think that's something that we probably all struggle with all the time working in this business, because when that phone rings, that can be a paycheck, and it's like, hey, you're going to step away to take that call. But you definitely also need to be able to set some time aside to spend it with your family, because I got little kids at home right now, and it's like they're only little once, and if you're not there, it's sometimes you don't get to, you can't go back, I guess, so I'm struggling with it, trying to get that work family balance, because like I said, it is kind of tough sometimes.
Yeah, a couple of things in there, Dan, is, in the real estate space, there is so much that you can do. And I've always encouraged, like, if you're a residential agent, just be a kick-ass residential agent. When the commercial deal comes along, refer it out. It's a completely different game. When the rental deal comes along, refer it out. When the property management thing comes along, refer it out. I've tried to do all of those things, and I've done them half-ass. Luckily, I've had some partners that have stepped up and done some of those things well. But when you try and do it all, it is very difficult. There are so many little nuances to each one of those sectors that I just mentioned. It's just not, in my mind, not worth it, unless that's where hey, I got in, I realized residential isn't my thing, I want to go down a commercial path. Okay, then go get commercial business and refer out the residential business. I was talking to a broker owner yesterday. I didn't even know this existed in Massachusetts still. His brokerage, they do not work with sellers. They are a buyer broker only. It's called Buyer Choice Realty, more in the Boston market. But that's all they do is work with buyers. And as I was chatting with them, I'm like, it's not, difficult to kind of stay in business in this day and age, and the margins are getting, he's like, when I can talk to somebody and explain my value prop, the buyer's going to get committed to me. When they realize that's all we do is we focus on buyers and there is no conflict. Interesting. Right? So, anybody else? It is Finance Friday. I don't know, Dan or Eric, if you guys have anything specific for us on the finance side of things.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if we had talked recently on this meeting about VA loans much, but I figured we'd kind of bring it up because I had a scenario this week where sometimes there's a lot of misinformation or like on the listing side, like listing agents are kind of weary because maybe they're misinformed or uninformed about VA loans. And we run into scenarios where they're like, oh, we don't want to accept it because it's VA. And they just, they think that we're going to be really overboard on property conditions, or maybe they've just had a bad experience before with a VA lender or a VA buyer. But I think VA loans they're really one of the few loans that are available to buyers that you can put down nothing and not pay any mortgage insurance. And then also because it is a government insured loan, where basically the VA is insuring this loan to the lenders, for the threat of foreclosure, whereas on an FHA loan, it's insured by the FHA. But those government insured loans, the interest rates are lower. So, you have a VA buyer, they're going to be getting basically a lower than conventional interest rate. They don't have to put down any money, and they don't pay any mortgage insurance. So they're going to have more buying power than a standard conventional buyer with the same qualifications, the same income, same credit, same assets. Like that VA buyer is typically going to be able to buy, spend more. And in some certain scenarios, it might not make that much of a difference if this isn't a first time purchase for them. They're selling a home and buying, they're rolling over equity. Then we'll look into the options a little more. The only downside to a VA loan is that there is a funding fee attached to it, which if the buyer has any disability rating at all with the VA, the funding fee is completely waived. But that funding fee amount can vary anywhere between 0.5% up to around 3.5% of the loan amount, depending on, it's transaction specific. It depends if it's their first time use or a subsequent use on a purchase. Depends if they're going to put down any money. It also depends on a refinance. They charge less if they have to pay it usually. So it is a very advantageous loan for buyers. And I just had an experience this week where we just really couldn't get through to the listing agent, and they just wouldn't take it because it was VA. So we did restructure it, and we're hopefully going to be getting that here this week. But because
Dan,
this buyer really wants the house. So
on that note, and I don't know how often you guys are pushing this, but I would love to see you guys push this in case you've got an agent that doesn't understand the concept. I love getting that VA buyer approved conventionally as well if we can, right? And that makes the conversation with the listing agent a lot easier. Not going to guarantee that you get the deal done, right? But whereas, hey, Mr. Listing Agent, just so you know, my buyer is pre-approved. They could go conventional, but for all the reasons that Dan just mentioned, the VA loan is just significantly better. It's going to save them on their monthly payment, on their down payment, right? It's just a better product. They've earned the right to use that product, and that's why they're going. But man, I got a really serious buyer, and we're going to be good here. Right? That doesn't mean that you're going to get it every single time, but being able to show the conventional pre-approval alongside the VA and then having the conversation, we always come back to the communication here with the listing agents to say, hey, they're just choosing to go down this road.
Right. And let them know, if it really did come down to it, we can go conventional, but up front, we do need to let them know that our intention still is to go that VA route, because there's going to be VA disclosures that we're going to ask them to sign. We're going to send a VA appraiser out there. So they'll know it's a VA in process. But if it really came down to it, the appraisal was subject to some type of repair similar to, because really, for the most part, the VA standards are going to be the same as FHA for all those minimum property requirements. Couple things they go above and beyond, like they do require a water test if you have a well every time. They require a termite inspection in our area. In other parts of the country, they don't. They have a zone map that you could look up if you do business around the country. You wanted to know about that, but yeah, if it did come down to it, we could switch this over to conventional, halfway through if it really weren't able to go through with the VA for whatever particular property related, issue that might have come up. Anybody have any
just seeing
questions? Does anybody
KB's
run into any issues?
just seeing
like
KB's
kind of bringing up here.
KB's comment here. I wish we could just remove the loan type from the pre-approval. To get
Yeah,
these
we were
deals.
talking about that at the
Yeah.
Celtic a couple of weeks ago with Eric too. If we could just pull that right off of there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame, and hopefully it's you guys being a first class, world class agent that can get through to that listing agent that, hey, look, we're good to go. Chris.
I mean, I think the big thing why I do not want the loan removed is because, knowledge is power, and we need to know up front, what are our issues? What are we up against? So when I do have a VA, I say, what scares you about this VA buyer? Well, it scares me that there's peeling paint. No worries. We got a guy. I'm going to take care of that. If anything comes up VA, we got it. The water test, no worries. We'll take on that responsibility for the water test. Like, it's finding what is scaring that person. Oh, it's the 100% financing. Well, come on. You know what I mean? They're putting whatever. You have to educate as the buyer's agent as well, unfortunately, because a lot of these people aren't listers. As a listing agent, when I have the listing and it's a VA buyer, I really want to help them as much as possible because I'm so big hearted. So my thing is, hey, listen, there is some peeling paint. Will your people take care of it? That's when I'm representing the seller. So I think, again, everything is flipping education, like knowing what we're up against. Now, if we didn't know the loan type and we knew there was peeling paint, but we didn't know to the last minute, that can be a problem too. I just like to know, what are we dealing with?
Yeah. I love it. And I think, again, early on in that conversation, to Chris's point, our job is to relieve any stress from that seller and that listing agent when we're presenting our offers. What are the potential things that seller could be nervous about, that listing agent could be nervous about, and proactively explain to them how we're going to take care of it, right? She gave a couple of different examples there, but that's the conversation. Hey, I know I've been on the listing side, I've had the VA loan sitting there, and I was nervous about X, Y, and Z, so I'm sure you're nervous about those same things. Here's how we're going to handle it. There's nothing to be worried about. KB.
And for a lot of you guys that work with me, I'll always encourage you to just include me. If you send your offer over in an email to the listing agent, to CC me on there as well. because I can always chime in and try to pick up on what their concerns might be and let them know that it won't be an issue, and that we'll get the loan done, no problem.
Go ahead, KB.
Yeah, I just want to like clarify the reason that I kind of feel that way. And I 150% agree with everything that Chris just said. Like, yes, it's 100% all about education. Yes, we need to know to represent the buyer the best that we can. Yes, the seller needs to know so that they can expect what's going on. Like, I definitely get that. I think that my mindset is just we're in an environment right now that is so much about figuring out ways to protect the buyer that they've changed our whole commission structure and made everything a little confusing, that it's like when you're choosing a buyer based on their loan type, to me that just it seems discriminatory, right? And I kind of feel like it's not fair, because if that client does have an agent, or if the seller's agent isn't doing these things, that poor buyer like loses out simply because of the loan type that they chose, right? Like, we can have a deal, we can put the deal together, we could sign a contract, and that buyer has the right to change that loan type at any point in time. So why in the beginning are we able to choose based on the loan type? Right. So that's my only thing. And that's the reason that I threw it out there. But I do agree. If you have a great agent that's explaining the process, it shouldn't ever be an issue. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen.
That's why you guys got to call your leads, talk to your people, right? You're the educated agents. If they're dealing with somebody, it's always so frustrating to me when we have an agent that loses a buyer with the objection of, I'm already working with an agent, right? Everybody knows 5, 6, 7 different agents. It's a very easy objection to just go, I'm already working with an agent, right? Are they working with an agent that's as good as you are? That's what you've got to try and figure out, right? Are you under a contract? How many properties have you seen? How many deals has that agent done in the last 12 months? How many deals have they done in their career? You're going VA. How many times has that buyer's agent represented a VA buyer? Get down to the nitty gritty. Ask the questions. If you're that good, ask those questions. Put a little bit of doubt into that buyer's mind. Are you working with that agent because you feel obligated to, or because they're the best person for the job? That's one of my favorite lines, right? Is it because it's a relative? You feel bad? So don't be afraid to push the envelope a little bit. If you're really, really good at what you do, you deserve to represent more clients, but you got to ask. If you're not going to ask, you're not going to receive. I hope there was a couple of things today that you guys got out of this call. Makes you a better agent. That's the goal of the show. Is can we up your skill every single day that we do this? My goal is to make this the best way to start your day in real estate. I hope we did that today. I hope you guys go and have yourselves an awesome weekend. Like Chris said, if you're in New England, it's go time. Do not be sitting back watching from the sidelines. Get into your CRM, work your leads, talk to your sphere, show properties, go and look at properties, do open houses, get out there, take action. In the action will come some greatness for you, I promise. So the training that we have available today, if you still wanted more, let's take a look at what we have. 3 opportunities. We've got the Power Players Agent Mastermind, how to deliver a 5-star buyer presentation, and 100 listing appointment challenge. All right. We're not going to do this again on Monday. I am traveling to Atlanta, Georgia. We are headed to the Big South. Going to watch my daughter play some high-level volleyball. I can't wait. So we're not going to do it on Monday. I tried to do this from the road, and it is just extremely difficult. So we will be back on Tuesday. All right. Go kill your weekends. Appreciate you guys. We'll do it again on Tuesday. Take care.
Steve, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. You're not doing Monday. I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.